Welcome to our episode of Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down. Sponsored by Bible Interact and hosted by Dr. George Sparks. Now let's explore the field of archaeology in today's episode.
Good day, everybody. My name is Dr. George Sparks. My guest host today is Dr. David Graves. He received his PhD from Aberdeen University in Scotland. The program today is going to be part 2 and a continuation of iron in the ancient world, or I should say iron in ancient Israel. I did one last week, and it was basically how iron entered into the land of, I'll say early in the land of Canaan and in the territory of Israel by way of the Philistines. And I read some articles where scholars, and I'll use the word suggest because that's what they used. And academically, it's kind of playing it safe. And that's where, in other words, they're saying, we don't know 100%, but we suggest that the Philistines, as they migrated into the land of Canaan, settled along the coastline, which we call that area the Levant, the coastline, the Levant, and then we have the trade route. And with that, they brought with them the knowledge of iron. And today, Dr. Graves is going to do a continuation, except it's going to be in more detail. And it's good to have you today, Doctor, and really interesting to hear what you have to say on the subject.
Great. Good to be with you, George. Yeah, we're going to explore things a little more, a little deeper, and a few more photographs and things that we can and pursue this further, and how things sort of transpired. How did the iron technology move from the Philistines into Israel? It's kind of interesting, I think. We're going to do a little speculation, but let me get my PowerPoint started here, and then...
Yeah, so, and you used a word that's kind of academically safe too. You said speculation. So you could say educated guess, speculation. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. And if everybody sticks around, of course, to the end, and I know you will, we do have, once again, artifacts to share. We have some bronze artifacts and iron. So Dr. Graves is going to tell us a little bit of a comparison. So stay tuned. So,
forging the ancient world. How did Philistine iron shape ancient civilizations? Particularly, more interested and focused on Israel. So, well, a good article that was published back in the 80s in Biblical Archaeology Review, or BAR magazine, by James Mully. He says, how iron technology changed the ancient world and gave the Philistines a military edge. So it's a little old. A lot's happened in the last 30, 40 years. But nonetheless, it was a pretty good read, and it would give you a good overview of things if you wanted to check things out yourself, if you're interested in this area. There's a whole field of metallurgy that I'm not an expert in, I'm not a metallurgist, but it is something we encounter all the time. I did find some metal objects while excavating at Tel El Hammam. Turned out to be scale armor from the Iron Age, so it's pretty exciting to find them. So the process of smelting, forging, and shaping iron for making tools, weapons, and structures. The importance of iron technology: it's very durable, and the accessibility transform warfare, agriculture, and trade. So played an important role. And the time frame we're talking about here is from around 1200 BC through to 586 BC. That's the classic Iron Age period. So it ran for quite a long time. They were using this stuff. Here is a timeline. This is my timeline that I use. You can see the Iron Age right here in the greenish yellow. And then this is leading in from the intermediate bronze, middle bronze, and the late bronze periods. And then we get into the Iron Age. Now we need to remember that they didn't wake up one morning and say, well, we're only going to use iron from this point on, and we're not going to use bronze anymore. That didn't happen. There's a transition. This happens as these two develop together, but This is generally how archaeologists break down the periods according to the material that they're using: stone, bronze, iron. Here's another timeline that you can see some of the items that were used in the Davidic Solomonic periods, from the Judges right through to the Divided Kingdom, from the late Bronze into the Iron Age. And some of the artifacts that we see associated mentioning Israel. These are the Israel steles. We have one here, the Berlin pedestal. It's pretty early, mentioning Israel as a people's group. Merneptah stele, people's group. Kirk stele, also mentioning Israel. The Mesha stele, and then the Tel Dan stele. And a couple of these over here mention King David, or David's kingdom. So the earliest evidence is there was meteoritic iron used in the Mesopotamia in Egypt that was discovered. So you get this meteor that they find a piece of it laying around, and they're actually able to use it. Smelting innovation happened up in the Hittite territory in Anatolia, modern day Turkey. It's right up in this area. They pioneered iron smelting around 1500 BC. And it's theorized the Philistines, when they came through from the Aegean area over here, came through, they picked it up in their contact with these folks when they're traveling down through. So it spread to the Levant, Greece, and India by 1200 BC. So here are some Assyrian iron weapons, some daggers modified later to increase their value, actually found on the black market. So these ones had been modified, and they found that out by x-raying them, discovering how they were soldered together and pieced and so forth. But it gives us a good idea of their structure and what they look like, and the pieces and parts that were used and put together. The Egyptians and iron technology, we have a good example of this from King Tut's tomb. And this is a meteoritic iron dagger that was discovered in his tomb down here on the right. And then we have a blade here on the left that was used in the ceremony of mummification. But it looks like a dagger. This was a dagger. This one here was made out of iron. This is from the Met Museum. So there were 19 objects, iron objects, in his tomb, including a set of blades which appear very similar to those used in the Egyptians' opening of the mouth ceremony, a special ritual performed for the benefit of the deceased to enable an afterlife. There was also a miniature headdress containing iron parts inside the golden mask. So we find quite a few things. There's an amulet that was discovered, attached to a golden bracelet, a dagger blade, which I already mentioned here, with a gold. The hilt was gold. So here's the iron one, an iron one found in his tomb here. So he had some pretty nice daggers. This suggests the daggers were probably imported to Egypt, perhaps as a royal gift from the neighboring territory of the Hittites, possibly. And the Amarna letters describe an iron blade gifted to Egypt by one of their kings, indicating that at this time, Egypt's knowledge and skill of iron produced were relatively limited. So how does this stuff work? How do they make it? Well, here's a bloomery furnace, an example of the reconstruction of one here. This is the early method to extract iron from ore, producing a bloom of impure iron. The blacksmith then would hammer and heated it to shape iron and weapons. Probably some of you have watched the show on the History Channel where they make weapons. They have blacksmiths pitted against one another, and they give them a contest, and pretty popular for some to watch. But it gives you, anyone that's familiar with that process, it hasn't changed really in centuries. It's just the way they do it has become a little more sophisticated. But to do iron needed a high fuel demand, and so it produced inconsistency compared to bronze. So it was harder to do, harder to get that consistency in the heat that was needed. And the process of putting a little bit of charcoal in to make it steel wasn't fully developed, fully understood. So Again, it was trial and error for a while. Here's a picture of the Egyptians, their metalworking. This is how they would smelt copper. Copper is much softer than iron, so the temperatures are much cooler. But you can see how so we have down here at the bottom, you can see they're wearing some billows on their feet. They're blowing air into the fire. This is how they get the temperatures up. Here's some iron from Madrid, Spain that was discovered. So they would make swords and spears and arrowheads. These were stronger and cheaper than bronze to make. And so it made it so that the Assyrian military were dominant because of their ability to develop iron and use it in their weapons. And we have iron daggers found in Philistine sites as early as 1100 BC. Here's one right here. This is an Ekron iron dagger found in the Philistine city of Ekron. We've already talked in past podcasts about the Ekron inscription that has the name Ekron on it. That's why we know it's from the city is Ekron. Here we have a blade, an Iron Age sword. This is from Iran, Persia. The pommel on it has been recreated from a foundry in Dublin. So again, they put these things together, different parts, but the blade itself is Iron Age, Iranian. Iron Age dagger, the Met Museum. Here are some Philistine swords, giving everybody an idea of the style. On the right's a drawing of someone holding one, what they would look like with their very distinctive headdresses they would wear. And so the Philistines gained a significant edge with iron weaponry. It was a key factor in their development and dominance over Israel. So as the Sea Peoples arrived into Canaan at the end of the Bronze Age, they brought with them this technology, this ability to do ironworking. They acquired this ironworking by defeating the Hittites in the second millennium BC, and then Egypt and the Hittites guarded their iron technology. The Philistines prevailed over the Hittites using it, likely acquired it. So here's a map of sort of how they traveled. They're up here in the Aegean area, Greece. They come down in through Turkey. They come down into Crete, and then they come down over to Ugaritic, Cyprus, and then down into Egypt. So they have contacts with all these different folks. Here are some Canaanite bronze weapons. So they didn't have the steel or the iron, but they had bronze weapons. And here's some that had been discovered in a hoard. 2 Samuel says, and George, you read this last week. Now there was no blacksmith to be found throughout all of the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make themselves swords or spears. But every one of the Israelites went down to the Philistines to sharpen their plowshare, his mattock, his axe, or his sickle. And the charge was 2/3 of a shekel for the plowshare and for the mattock, and the 1/3 of a shekel for sharpening the axe and for setting the goads. So on the day of the battle, this is the day of the battle, there was neither sword or spear found in the hand of any of the people with Saul and Jonathan, but Saul and Jonathan, his son, had them. So only the king and his son had them, and everybody else didn't. Why? Because the Philistines kept their iron technology from the Israelites. 1 Samuel 13, 19-22. So David lived in the Philistine territory, including Ekron, around 1000 BC during his flight from King Saul. So he's fleeing from King Saul, wants to hide from him. So where does he go? He goes to the Philistine territory and lives in the city of Ekron. That's where he's given permission to live by the king of the Philistines. He fled Israel to escape Saul's attempts to kill him due to his jealousy over David's popularity and victories, like defeating Goliath, for example. So he sought refuge with Achish, that's the Philistine king of Gath, who grants David the city of Ziklag. This is near Ekron. And so for 16 months, year and a half, David lives there in that city, becomes good friends with the Philistines, and no doubt they shared some of their technology with him, living among them, acting as a vassal, raiding non-Israelite groups while maintaining loyalty to Israel. So that's what David's up to. So here's some of the cities. You can see them here. Ekron is up here. Eglon is here. Ziklag is down here. This is all part of the Philistine territory. I have it designated sort of closer to the border here, but this whole area right here along the coast was considered the Philistine territory during that time period. Now, we already had a podcast on Moshe and Trudy Dothan. They were two of the folks that have done a lot of excavations at Ekron and in the Philistine territory. This is an Egyptian temple showing the famous headdress of the Philistines, what they looked like. Here's a close-up of it, the mortuary temple of Ramses III. Now, what was kind of interesting is these prisoner tiles from Ramses III that depict what they look like. These are the different types of people that lived in the area. We get a picture of them. These are the Philistines. Another plate, here are the Syrians. Here are the Amorites. Here's the Hittites. And these are the people of Cush. No doubt these are the black folks from down in Africa that they call the land of Cush. So each one of them has a different kind of dress, a different texture of their skin, different headdress, and different features. And that's how these plates, these tiles depicted them as they looked. So we can go back in time and see how they looked. And these are the Canaanites, and from Sashu. You see how they're a bit different. Their skin and their beards, the way they would dress and so forth. So these are the tiles. These are tiles from Egypt. Now, in En-Gedi, in Israel, near the Dead Sea, they recently found some Roman swords. I wanted to just bring this up, showing how we do find some swords, but they're in very dry areas. And they don't stick around very long because iron corrodes so fast, it just all breaks up into pieces. So here's some of the swords they found in the cave at En-Gedi. No, probably from the Bar Kokhba revolt. This is moving forward into the Roman period. Here's some more. There's the Ekron inscription that we talked about earlier with the name of Ekron on it. And here is the dagger found. Beautiful. Still enough of the iron on it. And I believe this may be a ivory handle or bone handle. I'm not sure. Maybe George knows and can tell us later. So the Philistines controlled the iron smelting with the facilities at Ekron and Tel Castile, restricting the Israelites from iron smelting to maintain their military advantage. We have that actually just recorded for us in Scripture. So scholars have suggested that David or his men may have learned the iron technology during his stay in Ziklag, observing the Philistine methods and methodology and procedures. So after becoming king, David's potential use of iron technology helped Israel gain dominance, reducing the Philistines' threat, making the battle more even. It's unclear if the Israelites' dominance enabled technology acquisition or if technology drove their success, but iron was certainly key to David's military victories. So it guards iron smelting technology to maintain military superiority. And so these two places, Ekron and Tel Castile, played a dominant role. Here's the hoard of ritual objects from the Chalcolithic period. So this copper stuff goes way back, 4,500 to 3,500 BC. Oh, there's another picture of the hoard. How beautiful it is. There's a lot of artifacts that were discovered. It's 429 pieces of copper that were found in this copper hoard in En-Gedi, the same area where those Roman swords were discovered. Why they preserved such good shape? Well, because it's so dry down there. Here are some Greek tools. So they used plowshares, and remember the Israelites had these, but they had to take them down to the Philistines to get them sharpened. There's a plow reconstruction. They had some metal pieces on these, an iron plow. This is an iron plow, again, from Ekron Museum, in pretty rough shape, again, because it corrodes so bad. This is an iron spear. This is from the Tena culture, so a little better preserved. The Syrians and the Hittites. And as I said, Egyptians had it, Europeans had it, and the Indians had it in India. And some of the sites, Tel Dan, Ekron, up in Turkey and Iran, have all had iron discovered. This was kind of a neat one. This is the bronze one that was, I just happened to come across this the other day. And you'll see the etching here of the cuneiform on the axe head. It's bronze. This is Elamite. Ceremonial axe, so probably found in their tomb. This is from the Louvre Museum, but 1300 BC. And so before the iron, we had the bronze. This is some smelting furnaces that were discovered. These are down in Egypt area. There's the slag. I think that's the slag. Isn't it, George? Those are pictures of the slag you sent me?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Yeah. Some pictures of some slag. So this is basically the raw iron that they get. Here's a picture of the different temperatures as they go down and how they produce the iron. Early method to extract iron from the ore to get the slag. And then the blacksmith hammering and heating it, and then reheating it, and they have to cool it properly, and then reheating it. And I'm not going to go through the whole process because I'm not a blacksmith and I don't understand it completely, but it was pretty complicated. High fuel, as I said, demanded, but that had produced inconsistent qualities compared to the bronze they could do pretty consistently at a lower temperature. So that's not why everybody had it. The advantages were that there was abundant ore, it was a stronger tool to use iron, a lower cost than bronze to manufacture, but it was prone, as we've shown, to rusting, requiring skilled labor for high quality steel. They got to put that coal in there, set the stage for a later steel advancement in the classic period. It was a foundation for steel production and industrialization as well. It's long-term impact. And so it became an important metal for the development of Israel in the region, probably acquiring it from the Philistines. So that's my just quick overview of the iron technology. And I think, George, you've got a few items there to share with us as well, do you?
Yeah, sure, because you did mention bronze.
Yeah.
And you had, I think it was some bronze displayed. They were Egyptian items. But so maybe you'd want to, I don't know if you can, that's okay. You don't have to bring it back up. Of course, this is the Epsilon axe, but it's bronze.
Right.
And the date on this, oh my gosh, this is going to go to Middle Bronze Age.
Yeah.
So we're going to give this a good, what, maybe 3,600 years at least, maybe even earlier. But let's look at some bronze items, because you talked about some, if bronze is placed in a tomb, like you said, sometimes, such as that axe blade that you showed with the cuneiform on it,
Yeah.
they'll be placed in the tomb of somebody wealthy or noble, and they can stay very well preserved. They'll have a patina on them, and of course, once you take it out of the tomb and that environment, it has to be treated for bronze disease real quick.
And
So
sometimes they would bury them with the bodies, and so they'd be wrapped, and if it was a mummy or what have you, so they're well preserved before they're placed. They're not just laying around a site. So,
but this one has a green patina on it, like you're saying. But you said
yeah.
well preserved. Now this would probably be about the same age, but look at the condition of the Duxbow axe.
Yeah.
That
Beautiful.
is almost, that's got less of a patina on it than a penny,
Yeah.
a modern day penny. If
Right.
it's been in circulation for a little bit, this is probably the condition that this one right here is.
But now
Wow,
that's
about,
been but now
yeah,
that it's
this
been
one's very old.
found, now that it's been found, you've treated it
Oh yeah, sure.
to
But look at the
preserve it.
condition. It's just absolutely beautiful. And then one with the patina still left on it.
Yeah.
This one's an axe. It has some pieces broken off of it, but it could have been broken off in antiquity because it's an axe. And it's not ceremonial. So of course it's probably going to be treated pretty roughly. But here
Right.
you can see, maybe compare it to my white shirt. Here you can see the axe. This is where you can see the shaft of
The shaft. Yeah.
the handle would go through, and you can see a little rivet sticking through there. You can see it in the middle, see it go to the middle of it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's still there. Now this little piece, I'm going to use both hands. You can see this little extension of the bronze right here to give it some
Right.
more stability. Let's see.
Oh,
But
just
yet it's broken
ingenious.
off here. You don't see it here.
Right. So the wood is just deteriorated, leaving the
Yeah,
rivet in place.
there you go. Exactly. And that's one style of an axe. Here's another style of an axe blade.
Yeah.
Now, this one is solid. And this one is solid right in here. But look at this one right here. It's not. It's kind of interesting.
Hmm. Now, where would they attach the handle of that one, do you expect?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, was it like the handle would be split and placed in here, and then they'd have to strap it on? You've seen that
Right.
technique before.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe this was used by an ancient dentist, and he's like, tink, tink, tink.
Well, it could be a chisel as well.
Yeah. Something a little bit smaller. I don't think it's any type of a battle axe, right? I don't think anything like that.
But
So something,
could it have been that the shaft had been put on the end? It was used like a dagger. Yeah.
you know what? That could, why not? There's no rules to the game, right?
Right.
But it's just an interesting piece. So I picked it up. I
Oh,
thought it's unique. Um, Also, you showed a selection of bronzes that dated from. You gave it a date from like 4,000 to 3,500. Was it like that? It was Chalcolithic.
well, those were the bronze pieces. That was the hoard from Engedi.
Horford and Getty, and it's got a name is called the Cave Mishmar. Called the Horde, the Cave Mishmar. It's actually on display in the Israel Museum. Now, when you look at them together, you might think that they're like this big, something like this is normal size. But these things were actually, I'm going to use the safe word here. Scholars suggest that they had a votive use and a ceremonial use.
Right.
Those
Ritual.
things are huge. Those bronze pieces are like this. I mean, they're. I think you had some mallet heads in there, and the bronze mallets are like mace. What do they call them? It's not a mallet, but you know what I'm calling it. It's
A mace.
a mace head. Yes, and they're like huge. It's like this. A normal one would be about this big. There's like 2-3 times the normal size. Of course, indication that something happened where they were trying to protect them. They were important to that culture, and they stashed them in a cave. And of course, they were found along with Dead Sea Scrolls and other items when they were actually hunting. I think they're actually looking for more scrolls, but they find other items as well throughout the years. I
Yeah.
think it was between the late 1940s and then early to mid 1950s. They were finding the bulk of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the caves.
Well, when we excavated the cave at Qumran,
Yeah,
Cave 53, we went down to bedrock, and so we found everything from the Roman period all the way down to the Chalcolithic period. We found a beautiful flint arrowhead, just perfect napping. But so we know that people have been living in the caves for a very long time. So you do find a lot of stuff from various periods, and nothing is just from one period. So you're right.
now we'll go to the iron because you did discuss the condition of ancient bronze can be found in a really good state of preservation.
Yeah.
But bronze is much more difficult. And then here, David, we have the bronze handle, but the iron sword, I don't know if somebody can see it there. You can see where the iron is inserted into the handle,
Right.
but the iron is gone because it rust away.
Right. Just like
Or
cancer.
part of it was broken off in the enemy. A little visual there. But anyway, so this is usually how a lot of the bronzes is, iron, excuse me, iron is excavated in the field. Not a lot left. And then we go to other items. And believe me, the iron, I'll call this a javelin point. It's got a socketed hole in one end, and this is where the beam could be the beam
Shaft.
could be inserted. So we call it socketed. Most of these all here are socketed. But believe me, the state of preservation is not good. And as we talk, pieces could come falling off. Just little bits fall off, and then I got to glue them back on and then use an adhesive and then spray it down to keep it away from the atmosphere. But yeah, iron is always really, really tough unless it's in a really sealed environment, such as, and I'll just show you some other ones, not great conditions. Not look, here's a piece that just fell off here. Okay, see, so all right, now you mentioned King Tut's tomb, right? That was in a pretty good state of preservation. You showed pictures of it. I had a gentleman, he made a version of it, and this
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Beautiful.
And you talked about a pommel being created for the sword. This is
Right.
actually what David's talking about, the pommel. That's where your hand doesn't slide off.
Right.
All right. Now, these little colorful indications right here, these little inserts, are possibly covering up where the rivets are, attaching the handle to the iron weapon.
So is that a complete reproduction?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
And you can see here another indication that, wait a second, you can see it you can barely see it. It's right there. See how it looks like a little gold plug in the shape of a rosette? That's another indication on both sides. That's where a piece was inserted to attach the handle to the iron.
Okay.
But
Very
this is attaching the wooden handle. This looks like it might have been representing ivory. This is attaching the iron pommel. So it's two separate attachments. Okay.
Cool.
And then, David, here's a really good condition Roman period iron sword.
Oh, wow.
Now you can see the holes where one time the handle was once again attached by the rivets. And here, if I can go like this, you can see sticking up are some rivets remaining.
Oh, wow. You could rivet that right to your hand. Don't grab that too hard.
Are you trying to tell me I look like Rosie? I think that's an old World War II America, Rosie the Riveter, when women were used in the factories because men were going to war. So, okay, Americans, he's from Canada. Forgive him, Jesus. Wait a second. Rosie the Riveter.
We used iron swords back then. During the
But here's the
1812
selection.
war.
Once again, as you talked about in your presentation, nicely done. The bronze, we find that in a pretty good state of preservation. Usually it has the patina. The patina, I didn't explain that to you. That's that green color.
Right.
We call that the patina. Okay.
And we find
you
it
try
on
not to remove the patina because that's what gives it its appearance and age, its uniqueness.
We also use it with glass. The glass that has a patina on it can be a green or a bluish kind of, it looks like flakes sometimes of We call that patina as well. You don't want to remove that. So
You know, one
beautiful.
time, but I'm going to back, you know, when you're talking about the patina on a glass, sometimes because the way that glass is protected, it's going to be found in a tomb, right? You're not going to find intact glass somewhere in a tell where all that rubble on top of it, unless it's a miracle. But usually it's going to be found in a tomb. So that environment in the tomb, and it could be damp or moist, and that's going to create that patina. But sometimes because of the way it's laying in the soil, uh, for appearance, you try to remove that soil, that dirt. And you know how they remove it? It's a technique. And you know, I remember when we were talking about mummy mask and they were using Palmolive soap to clean it or something. I go, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. Okay. How we try to remove the dirt off the glass is we use Scotch tape.
Right.
And you try to remove it and you just gradually take it off little by little. So you try to keep, and some of that patina will come off too.
Yeah.
And then trying to preserve that glass, you slowly do that and it'll come off.
Well,
But I thought people might find that interesting.
we'd often find pottery, you know, and pottery is, you know, your terracotta clay. You take your brush and you sweep it and brush it and brush it. And we just say, when you find a piece of glass, you don't brush it, because if you do, you're going to lose all that patina. It's going to brush right off. And so you don't wash it. You don't wash your glass. You just leave it the way it is. And as you said, use some toothpaste. Use some tape, and you might be able to get some of the dirt off of it. But got to be real careful and real gentle on it.
Right.
Well, that's a good presentation, George. We've you had some good items there today, and nice to see even the reproduction. It gives us a good sense of what it looks like complete. So thank you very much.
Okay. You know, David, you know, once again, thank you for a presentation. Nice slides, nice presentation with your slides. Also, before I forget, I want to thank the Museum of Archaeology and Biblical History for loaning us all these artifacts, because by the time we get done, we got tens of thousands of dollars worth of artifacts. And usually it's not the cost, it's just the rarity of these items. So I do appreciate the loan of the artifacts and trusting us with the collection so that we can present this.
Certainly.
So I'm giving the museum a plug and in gratitude.
Yeah, certainly not something that our audience is going to see every day. So good that you're able to share them, and if the world can see them, they're not just locked up in the vault.
And that's true, because most of the time, I'm sorry, go ahead, David.
I'm just wondering how many folks were up to there today. If since
David.
Update.
Okay, let me get my notes. You know, I always take notes. We were talking about taking notes. And I said, man, when I get done, this is just, now we talked before the program, and I put notes in my phone because he came up, he's telling me, gave me a good idea for another advertisement. So something that I think I want to capture right away, I might put it in my phone if I got my phone close by. Other than that, pen and paper, just like, or sometimes on my hand, this old school, right? Yeah. So this is all the notes just from today, us talking, that I want to get back to, and I didn't want to lose in my head, right? Now, I didn't forget your question. What are we up to today? David is asking me, how many subscribers are we up to? Well, we started communicating around 8:30. So let's give it an hour, maybe 2 hours. And we started off 243,000. At 9 o'clock, my phone went ding. And at 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 244,000. Does that answer your question?
244. Wow. On our way to 250,000.
6 more thousand on our way. And I'm thinking hopefully we can do it by the end of July.
Wow.
And have it, and I don't know. Well, I can't say that. You know, it's a thought and it's a wish. I could tell people about wishes, though, right? Wishful thinking.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, well, David has a close friend, Scott Stripling, and Gary. He's your close friend too. But I know Gary, I think more than I know Dr. Stripling. Both of them excavating at Shiloh. And they did it this year, under fire.
Yeah,
Just
literally.
literally under fire. And then
Under missiles.
they had to find their own way home because the airports were closed. Unbelievable. I'm not going to say unbelievable story because it's not a story. It actually happened. And so we want them on our program. This is the wishful thinking. We want them to tell us about their event excavating at Shiloh. Nothing political, nothing political. It's just archaeology excavating at Shiloh this past season. Dr. Stripling and Dr. Gary Byers. And we're wanting to have them on our program when we hit 250. So quarter of at what?
They discovered some really cool stuff.
Yeah, they did.
And I can't spill the beans because I'm not publishing on it, but the director of the dig, Dr. Scott Stripling, can share what's permissible, and he's going to share some of the things they found this season while under fire in the land of Israel. So it'll be pretty cool.
Well, hey, David, maybe I play a joke on him. He said, he shows us what he found in Shiloh. And I said, but Dr. Stripling, I found this in my backyard just the other day. And then a week ago, I dug this up. Well, actually, it was my cat. My cat was playing in the sandbox and he dug this up in the sandbox just last. And last week at band camp, my son found this. Okay.
Well, he'll have some really pretty cool things to share with us. I don't know if he's going to have photos or not. A lot of the stuff is getting ready for publication. But Shiloh is where the Ark of the Covenant was for a number of years. And so it's a pretty cool site. I excavated there his first season, the square supervisor. So I've been there, done that. But they're doing some wet sifting. They're doing some botanical stuff. Anyway, she's going to share all that neat information with us about what they're doing at Shiloh. We've got some other individuals coming on as well, and they're going to share their experiences. I got a dig volunteer, a good friend of mine that's going to come on and share his experiences, and then another gal is going to come on. So we've got lots of great things planned for you. Shooting for 250,000 people as followers. So,
yeah, so
I want to thank every one of you.
Yeah, thank you, David. Everybody tell your friends. Get them to subscribe, be a part of what's going on, because we're going to keep on growing and going into museums and getting artifacts and bringing it to you, the viewer. And really, David, I don't know anybody else that's doing this. I mean, a lot of good presentations out there. A lot of good presentations. Good solid archaeology, and yeah, it's very impressive. But for what we're doing, I don't know anybody that's actually going into the vaults, getting the real deal, and saying, "Hey, check this out."
We could have said two old guys with some junk, but explorers of the Lost Vault.
They'd be like Sanford and Son of Antiquities.
Yeah. That's right. Well, it's a lot of fun doing them every week. So I like doing them and I appreciate it. And if we can illuminate the public just a little bit, pique their interest, and keep on learning, mission accomplished.
Absolutely. Once again, thanks to the Museum of Biblical Archaeology, Bible Interact for being our sponsor. David, for your PowerPoint. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Until next week, have a great day. Have a great week. See you again.